Usually at this time, our friend Jeff promotes his podcast. This time, however, he wants you to hear this and hear it very well. Black Lives Matter. The protests continue. Now is the time for committed, concerted action to end white supremacy and abolish any police force that engages in brutality and profiling, which is pretty much all of them. If you don't know what to do to help, I can help you. Google Support Black Lives Matter in my area. Talk to friends. Go on Twitter. Now is the time to fight. We welcome you. If you would like to hear a discussion about this topic featuring Black voices, listen to the most recent episode of Everything is Awesome called We're Fed Up by following the link in the show notes. Long days and pleasant nights.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 6, Episode 8. Let's Kill Hitler. In this episode, finally, somebody wants to time travel in order to kill Hitler. I've been waiting for it. Unfortunately, it does not seem that that was a successful mission. Fortunately, the Doctor does not die. Unfortunately, Riversong no longer can regenerate. Fortunately, Riversong can no longer regenerate. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
This episode is straight bonkers, y'all. This feels like it really kind of starts it starts at full speed and doesn't give us any sort of like explanation of where we are and why we're here. Which, granted, a lot of episodes don't, but because of the last one ending the way that it did, I really didn't think the next one would start this way, with a bit of like a time jump, you know? Mm-hmm. And what we begin with is Amy and Rory driving through a wheat field in this tiny little car that's adorable, by the way. And what we find out they are doing is making a crop circle in order to signal for the Doctor to come down. And I mean, what he holds up as the means of knowing where to meet them is the story about how there was a crop circle in Ledworth. But I do have to imagine that somebody saw a car driving maniacally through the wheat fields and knows what happened here.
In broad daylight.
Yeah. But it's a pretty good moment because, like, Rory's saying, well, you never answer your phone. I like it.
Yep.
Next time I'm trying to get a hold of Owen, I'll just do a crop circle and be like, babe, I texted you. I don't know what you expected. And the Doctor's waiting for them, and he has not found their daughter yet, and Amy is sad.
Yeah, and it's been like 6 months or something. I think she says the summer. Mm-hmm. You've had all summer, which is a not 6 month period. But then the notes that I have said it was, or the trivia said 6 months. So she says summer though. You've had all summer.
Okay.
And like this ended, the last half of the season ended in June, and then this debuted in October.
Okay.
So they're kind of giving it like, here's real time.
Yeah, I forgot that there was that break, which you told me about last episode. So I guess it makes sense, the time jump, because I just totally forgot that that's how... This is the first time they had a mid-season break, right? Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, that explains why I'm like, well, this is sort of weird. Okay, I get it. This is... What I love about this moment that happens next is that my immediate reaction was, oh, River's here. And it turns out I'm right. But at first, I was like, what? Because Rory opens the thing and he says, what's this? That wasn't us. And there's a line right through the middle of their crop circle.
Yeah.
And then this sports car comes peeling up. And as soon as it slams to a stop and barely misses them, I'm just like, oh, fucking River. And no, it's not. But yes, it is. And I love that I know River's character enough by now to be able to tell that it's her even when it's not her. I'm delighted.
So before it was revealed that it was her, did you suspect?
I didn't suspect but I couldn't understand why they were making another character so similar to her. So that was really my mindset, was just like, what? And when I was watching this, all I kept thinking was like, what if River but less charming? Which, as it turns out, is exactly right, because she's young and brainwashed at this point, but we don't know that yet. And so pretty much yes. I mean, I think we can all safely say, when we're referring to our younger selves, what if ourselves but less charming, right? I think that's like kind of a universal thing that...
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I was just sort of like, why are they making somebody that's so similar? The cavalier attitude that she has when they hear sirens in the background because she's obviously being chased because she stole this car. The way that she's like, you never told me he was hot. And I was like, that feels like something River would really say. Her super like flirtatious nature and the way she's like rubbing her hands all over the TARDIS and like looking at him in this way. Everything about her felt Rivery. And I just was like, why are we doing this again? What are they doing? And then it turns out that's why. And it was very good. It was a very good I liked it.
Do you remember, because I don't... when the little girl in the alley regenerates, do we see what she regenerates into, or do we just see her starting to regenerate?
We just see her starting to regenerate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that would have also been somewhat of a clue if we'd seen her regenerate into a little black girl. And then see this, like, black girl who has grown up with Amy and Rory. But I was like, did I watched that not long ago. How did I miss what she turned into or who she turned into?
Yeah, they do not show that.
Okay.
And I was like, that was the point when I did start to be like, hold on. Because when like Amy is thinking back to, oh yeah, we grew up with her and that's why I named my daughter after her. But we hadn't seen her in any memories before. And it had never been mentioned that she named her daughter after her, you know, like we see the moment when Amy names her daughter. We watch her do it and it doesn't come up. So that was my, like, I had a real Dawn in Buffy vibe there where I was like, this is being inserted, but didn't happen. Right. And that's kind of true. It's not like it didn't happen, but it doesn't match with what we had seen.
Well, we hadn't seen any, other than when Amy was a little girl by herself, basically, with living with her aunt. We didn't see her and Rory as children until this episode. True. We didn't know that Amy and Rory have been friends since they were little kids. But, yeah, they've never mentioned a Melody or Mel's until this episode. And I think that that's part of why when I originally watched this episode, it didn't, I was kind of disappointed. I didn't feel that way upon rewatch because I don't know. Rewatching this, I just have a whole different attitude about these episodes that I did then.
Okay.
But at the time, because I'd wanted so badly to know more about River, this felt like a weird cheat to me. Kind of like what you're saying about Dawn. it just felt like that's just a little too convenient. This character that we have never heard of or met before. But now rewatching it, like with the doctor being like, I was at their wedding. Why weren't I've never heard of you. You weren't at their wedding. Like those little things where I'm like, okay, it's understands that the audience is going to be like, hold on. So I liked it a lot more this time.
Yeah, like the point of it is that nobody knows who she is and that this doesn't really work or make sense except for the people who it directly she was involved with, because to them that's how it's always been.
Right. And like I don't think that this is like rewriting their history or rewriting their timeline. I think for Amy and Rory, this was their friend growing up. But at the point where we meet them, she's doing her own thing. They're doing their thing. Like it seems like once they got together, it stopped being the three of them.
Yeah.
And started being Amy and Rory.
It's odd because it seems like she's, and by the way, when they call her Mel's too, I was also like, wait. But then the doctor draws attention to it. So I was like, okay, maybe they're not trying to fool us because he specifically mentions it, but it still feels weird to me. But it seems like she was like intent on making sure that her mother and father actually get together in a way that I'm just like, why were you even worried about it? They wound up together. It was fine. They don't need you. If anything, you could have wound up Back to the Futuring the situation and Rory falls in love with you. And then where are we?
I do like later when she's like, you were worried about how you didn't get to raise me, but you did.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
I really liked that.
Agreed.
That she knew, she searched for them. She knew from whatever the silence and all of them that took her, she was aware of who her parents were. She escaped as a little kid and specifically looked for them.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just don't know why you'd want to mess with that, man. Just don't. Like, Back to the Future was out by the time she was a child. She should have watched that and been like, you know what, I'm bow out. Thanks. But, anyway, okay, so, this whole opening, she, like, pulls a gun on the doctor. Everybody is like, what the fuck are you doing? And she says, I need to get out of here now. And the doctor asks anywhere in particular, and she says, you've got a time machine. I've got a gun. What the hell? Let's kill Hitler. And I was like, fucking correct. Yes, let's go kill Hitler. I was really, really hopeful that we would get a Tarantino-esque, and they did. But we did not get that. I understand it.
Yeah.
I get it. The show doesn't do altering history type stuff. However, I mean, they do, but it's always like, oh, but you would never know, you know. Yeah. But if somebody killed Hitler, that would be a thing. Or she could have killed Hitler, and then we could have been like, and it was mistaken for a suicide because it was in a locked room. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, but it was, as they established, when we're inside the robot, the Tesselecta, they are too early in his timeline. And I like that they're like, yeah, we're time travelers, and we'll get to this, but we find people at the end of their natural timeline and then make them pay for their crimes. So that's like an easy way of looking at, like, you know, fucking Hitler killed himself. Got to take the easy way out. But it's nice to think that this group of justice warriors will just go and, okay, here we are in this bunker where he killed himself, and we're going to just take him right out of the timeline, and we'll take care of him, make him pay for it.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I feel like I'm supposed to find more satisfying than I do. And here's my problem. And this has been the case for me since I was a child, but I couldn't even really put words to it. In a lot of, like, shows and movies for kids, there'll be a bully who does some garbage thing. And then in the end, somebody humiliates them by pulling their pants down in front of the entire school. Or they get slime poured over their head. Or fucking fill in the blank. You know, something happens to them. And every time, my response was like, they're just going to go be a bully again in a week and a half, though. That's not doing anything. It's like a temporary... And my feeling about that is sort of similar to how I feel about this, in that what I want in terms of like getting back at a person who has done harm is not for that person to be tortured for the sake of me enjoying them being tortured, because I guarantee I won't enjoy it. Whether or not somebody deserves it, it's not something that I ever am able to just be like, yeah, but you deserve it, and turn off the part of my brain that's like, yeah, but they are literally screaming in pain and torment. It's something that for a moment, I'm like, haha, yeah, that's what you get. And then I'm kind of done. What I want is for the people who did this horrible shit to understand what they did. Really understand and get it. And that, I'm like, we don't get, he says to the doctor, and the doctor's like, and then what do you do with them? And he says, give them hell. And I am like, low-key hoping that by give them hell, he means put them in the body of one of their victims and send them back into the timeline. Because...
well, that would be great.
I want that kind of like awakening from these types of people, you know?
You want a Ebenezer Scrooge awakening for all bad people.
100%. And like Donald Trump, I want Donald Trump to suddenly become self-aware, like really understand what a complete joke and humiliation he is to the country. If I could pick any sort of punishment for him, that's what it would be. It's just all of a sudden he really sees himself. That's punishment enough. You don't get away from that. I want him to have the kind of reaction, remembering everything that he has done, that I have upon a memory from 8th grade where I got somebody's name wrong. That kind of like sudden like, oh God, that, you know, those memories that you have that are just so embarrassing that to this day you wince out loud because you're still so embarrassed by it, even though it doesn't matter and nobody cares. You still have this. I want him to feel that way every second of the day forever. And spend the rest of his life trying to fix what he did. That's what I'm looking for. So while I understand in theory this kind of like, oh yeah, we're going to take the worst people from history and we're going to punish them the way they deserve to be punished and that they never got. This doesn't feel like the kind of punishment that is like productive. And I think part of that is me believing in like past lives and reincarnation a little bit, because I feel like you got to learn something, because if you go on and like reincarnate and you haven't learned anything, you're just going to do that shit again. So can we get them to a situation where they do learn and carry that so that when they reincarnate, they have empathy for this time around, which that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah. I just keep thinking about what you said about Trump, and for me, that's just not punishment enough.
It's not punishment enough for the harm he's caused, but it's the only thing that, for me, leads to a solution. Because part of undoing what he has done, unfortunately, requires him, if he isn't just taken out of the equation altogether, like backtracking, undoing, fixing things. And honestly, I don't know if he can. Like even if he wanted to at this point. But I just really, what I keep thinking of is like Dudley Dursley and the Dementor, and what it turns out he saw was himself and the way that everyone else sees him. And it resulted in him like being a completely changed person from there on. And that's what I want. You know?
it's times like this where I'm like, wow, I just have an evil streak. I'm mostly not an evil person, but my sense of I need the worst punishment. I have often said I want guillotines. Like, that is what I want. Like, you're very nice. You want him to be self-aware and see the harm that he's done and try to redeem himself and the world in redeeming himself. I don't care about his redemption.
No, you're misunderstanding. I don't care about his redemption either. I'm just caring about the harm that he did.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, but in my head, I'm like, I still want to see his head roll.
I get that.
Like,
I don't, like, ultimately, I don't feel like that is hugely helpful in the end. You know,
not.
That's the main, like, I am a long-term thinker.
Yeah. I want justice now. I want all of these people on a pedestal and a blade to come down and chop their heads off. All of them, not just him. It has to be all of them. Otherwise, nothing can change. They all have to go. And I just don't feel like there's, like, to me, like, jail time, it's too nice. It's not bad enough. It has to be torture jail. And
torture jail.
Like, it needs to be Guantanamo, but, like, 1,000 times worse. And I don't know what that says about me, but I just don't see how there's a punishment big enough for what they've done to our country. And I wish that I could be a long-term thinker about it, but I just really want them punished painfully.
I think that's part of it too, is when you say I don't know if what punishment would be big enough. I think that's kind of where I come down. It's just that there's nothing you could do to them that is going to equate what they've done to people.
Right.
So for me, none of that would actually add up. It's sort of like, and spoilers for Game of Thrones, the TV show, but when Joffrey drinks poison and so many people were like, oh, it was so satisfying. And I was like, was it? Because he just dies and doesn't, like, actually suffer any real consequences for what he did. And
or Cersei being crushed by a bunch of rocks.
Right. I don't know. I am somebody who, the root of the problem is that you don't have empathy for other people. So I want you to suddenly get that, and that empathy will translate to realizing the absolute torment you have wreaked on everybody in the world. And if you're hyper empathetic, that is going to be really bad for you.
Okay, so let's have both. Let's have him suffer in that way for a couple years, and then guillotines.
Guillotine, okay. I could get down with just killing. The torture thing I don't really care about, you know.
I want them to be in pain in one way or another. So I can say,
guillotine's
sure, let's
too quick
have
if
them
you want
all
them to be in pain.
I agree.
I mean,
I just really like the idea of their heads rolling. That's all.
I don't know. So, whatever. We're getting sidetracked by this thing.
Yeah.
But it's a weird, I would like to know who these people are exactly, that they have begun to take it upon themselves to, like, go back in time and do this, because
they do say who they are.
I mean, they do, but the thing is, like, what I mean is, who died and made you God?
Right.
You know, like, that's really, what are we doing here, kids? You know? That's a lot of arrogance to just be like, oh yeah, we have the worst people in history in descending and ascending order, and we go back and find them, and then we inflict whatever we deem to be an appropriate punishment on them. Sometimes, like, after the fact as well, you know, like, when they come into Hitler's timeline, they say something about how it's too late. They need to go back 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're just some sort of group that visits unpunished criminals at the end of their lives. I don't think they ever really say who they are, what organization created them, what authority they have to do this.
And honestly, like, what good are you if you are inflicting punishment after the fact when you have data about what a person does?
Yeah, but, and like, it's the opposite of what they do to River. Because they're not at the end of her timeline, but they're like, she's the biggest war criminal ever to exist because she kills the doctor.
Right.
So we're going to take her out now because we've happened to run across her now. That is actually the opposite of what they say about why they're not going to just take Hitler now. Because it's 1938, we're a couple years too early. And by a couple, they mean...
I thought they said too late about Hitler.
No, they said they're a couple years too early for him because it's 1938 and World War II hasn't become a world war yet.
Yeah, which, you know, that one would think that
actually would be the perfect time to do it because he hasn't managed to kill 6 million Jews and immigrants and minorities and artists and whatever.
I get that probably the argument would be, well, we can't punish somebody for something they never actually did, but you're doing that to River, so then, I don't know.
Right, so their whole ethos at the beginning of this, they just throw aside when they're like, oh shit, we have stumbled upon River Song. Right. So we're just going to take her now, even though she hasn't yet done the thing that is her big crime. Right. So then why not kill Hitler in 1938? Because he's, by 1938, has already done some pretty fucking horrible things. It just hasn't gotten as bad as it's going to.
Correct. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just a weird thing to be like, we're meting out punishment, but we also have like all of history already known to us. I just don't really understand why that's how that works.
I guess their point is that they're not authorized to change history. So they have to do it at a certain point where what these people have committed their crimes. Their job isn't, and their purpose isn't to fix history and to fix the world. It is to punish the people who caused the damage, which, fine. I get that, sure. But then don't decide, here's the point to take River Song.
Right.
When she has not yet, at this point, done the things that she's going to do. You take her later.
Although, the way the timeline is with River is so messed up that I'm like, yeah, she hasn't done it yet, but like to us she has. But she hasn't, not really, in her timeline. Maybe that's part of how they're determining it, is that like, technically, the doctor is already dead. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. This is one of those moments where my brain just goes, it doesn't make sense. It does not compute. It doesn't make sense. Like, yes, but his timeline's not linear. Hers isn't either, but hers is. It's just that we encounter her in his timeline only. His is not linear.
I guess that's
so
true.
Where we meet her here, she's just living her life. She's not a time traveler. She's got some Time Lord, like, DNA or whatever in her, some TARDIS DNA, but she's not a time traveler. She's been living her life. Mm-hmm. She has not, even though this is not 2011 anymore. Now we'll say we're in 2012 and the doctor dies in 2011. Or maybe we're not in 2012. Whatever. It hasn't happened yet for her, and it has for him, but that's because he bounces all over the place. So she hasn't done the thing. You can't punish her for a thing she hasn't done yet. You go and you snatch her up from that lake. If that's the case.
Weird.
But you have to wait for it to happen to him. And for him, it's still 200 years away.
And how good can their records actually be if they're like, oh, we're here and we're taking out Hitler. River Song. That's a surprise. We didn't expect her here. The newspaper had her a line right through the middle of the... You know, like, y'all need to update your records a little bit more frequently, is all I'm saying. Anyway. Yeah, I'm curious about it. Well, all right, can we talk about the flashbacks? Because Rory will never get a break on this show. My God. They, like, did such a great, like, badass Rory, where is my wife? And then they're like, I've been hiding for hours and you never came and found me. And I'm like, I hate you both so much for that. So mean-spirited.
That's who he was, and now he gets to where he is, where he's badass.
I hate it, though. I hate seeing it.
I know.
Poor little
cinnamon
sausage.
bun.
Like, you know, and the whole, well, obviously I can't be with Rory. He's gorgeous and everything, but he's gay. And Rory looking at her like, what? Wait, what? And then the utter obliviousness. When have you ever shown any interest in any girl? I do really appreciate the moment where she suddenly realizes. But damn. That's all I'm saying. Ouch.
Poor Rory.
I hated it so much. And I really don't... He's too good an actor. Because when he goes back to playing this version of Rory, I immediately buy it. You know? And that's what makes it hurt so bad. Is like how... His look of embarrassed disbelief when he is staring at her, and how he sort of like, he gets like low-key teary-eyed and begins trembling, and then he like runs away with his backpack slung over one shoulder like a real high schooler. It's just such a real moment. They did a good job of making them all seem super young. So, anyway, there's robots that are here to kill Hitler. The dude who's playing the German that's getting taken over, the one that, what is his name, Zimmerman? I'm looking him up, actually, because I feel like I know him from something. Was he what I think he is from, and I'm checking on this now, he looks like the dude in IT Crowd, the German guy who plays the cello, who put out an ad to cook somebody.
I never saw the IT Crowd.
Okay. Well, guys, the IT Crowd is unfortunately mostly very funny, but written by a horrific transphobe misogynist who's terrible. So I wouldn't recommend revisiting that shit now. But there is an episode where a poorly translated ad comes out where somebody thinks they're being offered a German cooking class, but it turns out the guy is looking for somebody to cook because he is a cannibal. And this dude looks so much like him, but I do not see that listed among the credits for him, so maybe that is a different guy. It says that he was in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which I don't know who he was in that. That's not ringing any bells for me.
Who does it say his name?
I'm trying to find. No. It just says the titles. Known for Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I would argue, no, he is not.
I'm clicking on it. Oh, he just plays a Death Eater.
Oh.
So he probably had a mask on.
Lame.
Let's see. Oh, he was in the IT Crowd.
Oh, he was?
Yeah, Johan.
Oh, okay, he wasn't listed on that Amazon X-ray thing. So that must be...
Moss and the German.
There it is, yeah. Because Moss shows up. And once the guy realizes that Moss doesn't want to be eaten, they decide to watch Ocean's 11. And so that's how they spend their evening instead. I'm telling you, that's like one of those terrible things where that show can be so funny, and then they will do. There's one particular episode where I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I looked up the writer, and it turns out that since then he has been absolute human garbage all over Twitter. Anyway,
this poor guy gets typecast quite a bit in The Woman in Gold, which is that movie with Ryan Reynolds and Helen Mirren. He plays junior Nazi officer. He's in something called Nazi Mega Weapons, Company of Heroes, where he plays Lieutenant Schott. He's a Nazi in Doctor Who. He plays a German cannibal in IT Crowd. He's a Death Eater in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. He is in something called D-Day 6/6/1944. Maybe plays a German in that. Not sure. His rank here is Lieutenant Colonel Terrence Otway. Could go either way. He's in Band of Brothers as a German colonel. Oh, that's what I know him from. I knew I recognized it, but couldn't place it. He plays Commandant Krieger in something called The Devil's Arithmetic. Like, this dude plays Nazis and everything.
that's
Poor guy. Sir Wolfric in something else. Like, seriously, almost every role is a German military person, most likely Nazi.
Goodness gracious.
He is from the UK. This poor guy.
I just
has that look.
Yeah, I mean, he does though. So this robot comes into his office and slowly like takes on his appearance as he stands there watching, going, wait. And I'm like, you need to run away. What are you doing standing there watching this happen, sir? Something stands in front of me and slowly begins turning into me. Nothing good comes after that. You name me one time that's worked out for the person. Never.
I mean, if that happened in front of you, I honestly don't know how I would react. Like, I would just be like, what the fuck is happening? I would probably just start to hyperventilate.
I mean, fair. That's not an incorrect reaction.
Like, you know, there's like the fight or flight response. I'm always afraid that my response is not fight or flight, but freeze.
I want to think that I'm a fighter, but I might be a freezer. I'm a real freezer. Because there have been a couple times where people have like said shit around to me where what they said is so deeply wrong and fucked up that my brain fails to fully process what they just fucking said until they have walked away. Because my immediate reaction is sheer rejection of the premise of whatever they said. So I don't really like absorb it. And then when they leave, I turn to the person next to me and say, wait, did they just fucking say that? And then the moment's sort of like passed because they've walked away from you and they're now engaged in another conversation. And so part of me is like, oh, I would definitely be a fighter. But I feel like that only would really happen if there was a slow ramp up and I was like able to foretell this was going nowhere good a little bit ahead. Mm-hmm. If it's sudden, I don't know that I would do well. So that's a fair point. But this is a really slow ramp up of this thing slowly gaining height and turning into him. I mean, it takes a minute for them to complete it. Yeah. So,
but even that, like, how do you wrap your brain around something like that happening?
Yeah.
Like, wait, you just grew like 4 inches. And now you have my face? What the fuck?
He starts to reach toward him all slow, like he's going to crush his skull. And then it's just to take his glasses.
I love that.
That's a really good little joke. Like, that was what I figured was about to happen, but the way his hand comes out is very upsetting. So I understand kind of the reaction of just like, oh my God, my face. Oh, just my glasses. I actually have another pair. I could have just, well, that's fine.
Well, and on this show, there's a history of people having guns in their hands. So, like, inside their hand.
Inside their hand.
So reaching a hand out, you're like, okay, so the gun's going to come out soon? Oh, no. Oh, you're just taking my glasses. All right.
You know, I'm just, this is a really weird premise too, is that we're not going to like zap him from afar from a spaceship we are tiny people inside this robot operating it. Is that really the most efficient way you could come up with to take care of these sorts of problems?
Seems pretty fun. I
mean, what happens if
except
the robot
for all the jellyfish
is totally like disabled?
I don't know.
Are they just stuck there?
They were able to zap in Amy and Rory, so I wonder if they did have they were able to call to whoever and be beamed up.
Oh, I forgot that thing. Right.
Yeah, when things started going south, they're like, okay, beam us out. And so it took everybody except for Amy and Rory, who were guests, basically.
Okay.
I like the tiny people inside of this human chameleon. I also think it's a crazy, weird idea that these little jellyfish things come out and are what neutralizes people.
Why is this a thing?
I don't know, but it's just one of those cool visuals where I was like, neat. That's clever. It's not like a metaphor for something else. It's just like, yeah, we'll make these look like jellyfish. That's cool. I just like the design of it.
I mean, the design, that's fair. They're very like matrixy to me. That's fine. I just, practically speaking, as we see, somewhat temperamental, faulty system that will literally execute you by mistake does not seem like the kind of thing you want in place. I mean, am I wrong?
They definitely need to work on the system. Yeah. I mean, it'll kill the employees if their little button is red instead of green.
Which I just feel like y'all are here to correct people not being like punished for shit that they did. And I don't feel like you guys seem to have the best track record either. I don't know that you get to point fingers, really. I don't know. But yeah, apparently that's how somebody decided shit should work for some reason. I don't really get it, but there it is.
They're called antibodies.
Which, because they're inside of a little, so they're like, you get it? You get it? Mm-hmm. Do you get it, Jamie?
Isn't that just such a Stephen Moffat joke?
Funny. Shut up. Okay, so then we have the moment where what's her face has gotten, what was she, shot? What happened to her before she regenerates?
Mel's, she got shot, yeah. Well, first of all, let's not skip over the fact that Rory punches Hitler in the face.
He doesn't punch Hitler.
Yes, he does.
He punches a Nazi.
He punches Hitler.
He does?
Yeah.
When?
Hitler's like, who are you? And, like, starts, like, fighting against them, and Rory punches him in the face.
I'm playing back to see damage report. Oh, yeah, he punches him when he takes his shot. How did I miss that?
I don't know.
He has the gun on him and says, sit still and shut up. Rory, you should have shot him, dude. What are you doing? I forgot that he yells, shut up, Hitler. Which is honestly, like, that's probably the best quote I've ever seen. It's so like, it's so dismissive.
And then he locks him in a closet.
Right? Shut up, Hitler. God, that is really funny. Yeah, I totally missed that because he punches that guy later when they steal his bike. So that's who I thought you meant. But I totally like somehow him punching Hitler with everything else nutty that was happening already in that scene just sort of sailed right over my head somehow.
And it's Hitler that shoots Mel's because he's freaking out and is shooting at the robot thing.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah, because she also shoots the TARDIS, which I have to admit I thought for a second was actually on purpose. That she was like trying to act like, oh, silly me, haha.
No, there's this thing that apparently was said in an old episode, not the new series that we're watching, but like one of the older ones. I can't remember if it was the third Doctor or the fourth Doctor, that the TARDIS has, hold on, I've got the term, temporal grace, which means that you can't fire a gun, you can't fire a weapon of any kind inside of the TARDIS. And she had heard about this, and so she decided to test it. That's what they're sort of screaming at each other when the TARDIS is landing inside of Hitler's compound here. He's telling her that it's her fault, and she's like, you said guns don't work in this place. You said we're in a state of temporal grace. And he was like, that was a clever lie.
It's not clever.
It's not clever.
It just makes you think that it doesn't matter. It's
just a lie that you told people so that they wouldn't fire weapons inside your TARDIS. You don't want to fire weapons inside of an enclosed space, so why don't you just say that?
Guy.
Come on, Doctor. You're supposed to be the smartest person in the universe, but sometimes you're pretty
One
dumb.
would really think that by now he would have gotten a hold of what the fucking human race is like. You know?
No, it keeps just giving us all these, like, chances. Like, suddenly we're going to not be horrible.
Yeah, you know? You tell somebody, oh, yeah, firing a gun in here doesn't really have any effect. I feel like all of us, as Americans, know. You say that to somebody who has a gun on them, and they are going to test that theory out. Like, that's just fucking human nature, kid. But...
Well, and just, it's even at a more baser, like, don't touch that thing.
Right.
Well, now I need to touch that thing.
Don't look over there. Don't look. What do? And that's not even contrariness. That's just reflex, you know? But
yeah.
Nevertheless. Anyway. Okay, so we have her saying, I thought we were going to get married, and the doctor says, good idea, stay alive and I'll marry you. And I'm like, oh shit, dude, you think that's a joke, but you might get actually held to that promise. I guess we'll see. I will say, though, that I appreciated this explanation all the more because seeing how obsessed she was with the doctor after Amy's stories didn't really work for me. And when it turns out that it's because she has been basically trained from birth to stalk and kill the doctor, I'm like, okay, now it all makes sense. But initially I was just kind of like, this bitch is acting like a real weirdo. Like in school, being like, the reason it happened was because the doctor didn't come try and stop it. And I was like, not for nothing, but we see how Amy is in and out of like counseling sessions and psychiatry sessions because of her belief in the doctor. This girl just seems to get punished, but nobody is like, is she okay? Because she seems like she really needs some counseling. I feel like that warrants more than what happens. You know what I mean? Like, damn. But nevertheless, it is amusing to see her continually getting into trouble. And then she regenerates into River and is delighted with her hair.
I mean,
Right, fair.
I would be too.
She says something at one point about how I'm going to wear a lot more jumpers, which I'm assuming is due to her boobs. Is that a boob joke?
If jumpers are sweaters, which that's what the Brits call a sweater,
Right.
then I would say, yeah, it's because of her boobs.
I find that to be a weird thing. I wouldn't, if I, like, you know, didn't have these titties that I am currently wearing, and all of a sudden I have them, my reaction is not sweet sweaters. Is that just me? Like, that doesn't feel like where your brain immediately goes, right?
I guess if it's like a really well-fitting sweater, not like a bulky Weasley sweater,
How dare you, ma'am?
but like a good, you know, well-fitting sweater. I don't know. I don't know why that's a choice, but you know why it's a choice? Because a man wrote this episode.
Yeah, I guess that is what it is. And also, like, her being like, oh, I have to go weigh myself, which really?
Thanks, Moffat.
I just want to know, kids, why this has to be the thing. Come on.
Because Stephen Moffat is a misogynist. Like, doesn't know how to write women. It's little moments like that feels like a microaggression.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he doesn't understand women. That is not going to be her first choice. Her being like, oh my God, my hair, it just keeps going. And like really digging her new body is great. Her then being like, I need to go weigh myself is like, ew.
You know, like the comparable thing is, oh yeah, the doctor regenerates and then immediately pulls out a tape measure and unzips his fly. Do we have that moment? No, we don't. We can leave the fucking scale out of this, guys.
We have him wondering if his hair is red and bemoaning his ears or his nose or whatever.
Anyway. It's just like one of those moments where I was like, really? I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. So then we have all of the people inside of the bot being like, oh, hey, so there's a fucking war criminal here right under our noses, and we can definitely get this one and then pretty much like retire for the rest of the year. And they say, well, how are we going to get her? And so it is revealed that it is a she that they are talking about, not the doctor, which is kind of what I thought was going to be the thing.
Well, after the last episode where all of these, you know, there was this whole thing set up against him because he's considered a warrior.
Right.
It would make sense to think, oh, here we go again. It's another group of people that are like, the doctor is the villain.
Right.
We need to stop him. And then for, you know, it's a little, you know, twist that, oh, her. Oh, so I guess we mean River.
Right. Yeah. So they send the Amy bot, but this all happens after there is like a back and forth between River and the doctor, RE having bullets in her gun and having a gun at all, which turns out to be a banana. Oh, she says, I'm going to wear lots of jodhpurs.
Oh.
Not jumpers. I don't get that one either.
Jodhpurs are pants.
Yeah.
They're like... Aren't they like...
They're the ones that come out on the side. On the thigh area.
What woman...
I don't know.
If you're not a skinny model, those don't look good on you.
I don't know what the fucking assertion is supposed to be, that I have really nice thighs, so I want to show them off in thigh emphasizing pants. Is it I'm in the Second World War about to start and the Nazis wear jodhpurs, so I'm gonna wear them? Is it I want to go horseback riding? What's happening?
Because those are traditionally for horseback riding, right?
Right.
Okay, hold on. Because I remember reading when I was looking at the notes for this episode, they did like point that out specifically, the jodhpurs, and I didn't know what it was referring to because I thought she said jumpers. Hold on, I'm gonna see what it is.
Okay.
Let's kill Hitler. Well, now I want to know because it had a highlight on it.
No, I mean,
which
it's
means
totally
it refers
fair.
to
It's
something.
just really funny that, like, as we're going through it, okay, let's see. I want to kill Hitler. Okay.
Sorry, I'm narrating my scrolling.
All right. Hit me with the jodhpur info.
It's just that she wears them later. She's wearing them in the Pandorica Opens and the Big Bang. And she does look good in them. I remember that.
I mean,
but that's the only significance.
but she goes into the other room before she says that.
Yeah, I know. Apparently
it's like
she's...
implied that it's something to do with, like, seeing her new form.
Yeah, her butt is what this is saying, that she planned to wear after examining her buttocks post-regeneration.
That's not the thing women think of when they look at their cute ass.
Right?
Never once in the entire history of my amazing ass have I ever been like, you know what would really showcase this? Fucking jodhpurs.
Right.
Ever. Never, never.
I mean, I will give her credit, and I'll give Stephen Moffat a teeniest fraction. She did look great in those pants.
Sure.
But that's because she looks great in everything.
I mean, she's been in many costumes, and for that to be the thing that she references.
It's probably some weird fetish he has, because he did write this.
I wonder if it is. He's picturing River with a riding crop, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, but then just put her not all horse riders wear jodhpurs. You can put her in, like, those tight riding pants, which would look just as good.
Maybe he likes the military aspect.
Maybe he does. I'm telling you, this is probably some weird fetish of his.
Yeah, sounds like it. Anyway, okay. Man, we've gotten sidelined quite a bit. So, Amy and Rory... Oh, first of all, there's the confrontation with the Nazis and River in the street. Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, she kissed the doctor and then she poisoned him. Did I mention that? I think I mentioned that.
You didn't, but yes. That happens.
And the SS officer that she meets in the street is super fine and real distracting. I'm looking him up. His name is Mark Killeen. Oh, he was in The Dark Knight Rises. He was in 300 Rise of the Empire. He was on Game of Thrones.
Wait, who did he play on Game of Thrones?
I don't know because this doesn't tell me that.
All right, well, I'll look it up.
But he is super pretty. Goddamn. He has a real Ninth Doctor face to him a little bit here.
Mark Killeen.
Yeah. I was on my way to this gay gypsy bar mitzvah for the disabled. And what does she say? When suddenly I thought, gosh, the Third Reich's a bit rubbish. I think I'll kill the Fuhrer. Who's with me? And this guy puts his gun down and says, shoot her, and then begins to walk away. And I was like, why would you not do it then? Just, you're right there. And they all open fire. Rory is very upset because this is his daughter that he's watching get gunned down by Nazis, which is something that I'm sure he thought he was safe from. And then she flips her hair back and looks up and says, tip for you all, never shoot a girl while she's regenerating. And she says this while bent over in this fashion that showcases her cleavage to such a degree, I feel the need to screen cap it and send it to you immediately for full effect.
Okay.
Because that's a pretty good shot, and I'm not even mad about it.
While you do that, he, in Game of Thrones, played Miro, and I had to figure out which episode that was and who he was. He was one of the
slavers, right?
No, not one of the slavers, but remember when Daenerys was trying to convince the Second Sons and the Golden Company and all of them to join up with her? And
oh, yeah!
And then Dario...
I thought he was super hot then, too!
Dario kills them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He's one of them.
Shit, he was super fine in that scene. He was distracting. I remember being like, good God, when I was watching it, and like when I was recording on it and talking about him, I just kept being like, oh, and plus Miro's super fine, by the way.
Alex Kingston.
I'm looking him up right now.
It makes me feel things. This woman. She's so hot. I can't stand it.
Do you see?
Yes. Her hair, her face, her boobs, all of it. She's so hot.
That could be a new... Here, let me get you a better quality screenshot. And you can make her with her titties the banner image now.
As long as I don't forget.
You're not going to forget these titties.
It's almost more the hair. God, her hair is like everything.
All right, there. I sent you a better one. A better ratio measurement so that you can use it for the banner. That way you don't have to try and choose between her face and her boobs. Because you know you probably would otherwise.
I would choose her hair over everything. But yeah. Oh, this one's kind of blurry. Oh, no, there it was. It cleared up.
Okay.
All right, I'm saving it right now.
Goddamn, Miro was fine, too. I'm looking at I went and looked up Miro Game of Thrones now. I forgot that they, like, put that scar in his face. What's up? They always cast him as a dickhead. Like, he's a hot dickhead, but nevertheless, like a bad person.
Well, you know, he got that kind of face.
A little bit. So they shoot her, and she, like, thrusts her arms out, and all of that regeneration light comes out of her, and they all get thrown to the ground.
Yeah, I think maybe it kills them.
They are all, like, kind of moving around, like, slowly on the ground, like they got dazed, but they're still alive. I don't entirely understand what happened here. Did we ever see the doctor manage to pull this off?
No, he never used his regeneration energy as a weapon.
I don't understand how that is a thing. Like, they shoot her and it's like it has no effect at all.
I don't have an answer because when 9 regenerated into 10, he was sort of weak. Like, he had too much energy that had to expel itself. Mm-hmm. And it was so basically he was incapacitated for a bit. Then when 10 regenerated into 11, we didn't see any of that. He was able to be, like, all over the place, but he was just, like, wonky for a little bit. He was, like, trying to figure himself out and get centered again because he was just a mess, but not, like, incapacitated. So I don't know. But it is all that energy, and maybe her, like, using it all in one fell swoop and expelling it all at once towards them could be a thing, because all we ever see with that energy is that it needs to, like, come out. And it, you know, with 10, it was coming out in little bursts.
Right.
But he was unconscious.
Okay. Well, if anybody else has, like, definitive canon explanation,
I suppose
let us know.
Then we have to raise the cat signal.
Cat signal! Cat!
It's
can.
It's been a while since we've had to use it, so hit us with it, cat.
Speaking of hitting, this is when Rory punches the other Nazi.
Yep.
They take the motorbike. Amy clinging to him. Can you ride a motorbike? He says, I expect so. It's that sort of day. Which is honestly not a terrible line.
Yeah.
The officer who went down for this punch gets up again, and then it is very clear that this is also a robot. Mm-hmm. I guess this is the same robot.
It's the same one. Yeah.
But, yeah, it turns into Amy. But before it does, I really enjoy the moment. When he gets up and turns around and we are clear that this is a robot, the commander inside says, okay, this time let's do the bike too.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the bike just appears, which was really honestly dope as hell. I really like that. That was so cool. So then we have the doctor dealing with the fact that he's like poisoned and asking for somebody that he likes to talk to via the TARDIS.
Yeah, his
like as the voice system.
Yeah.
And he goes through like the list of all of the companions that he had recently and is rejecting them all because they all make him feel guilty until finally he gets baby Amy Pond. And she keeps on saying that she's just a voice system. And he's saying, I can stay here for you. I can continue on for you. But she's like, I'm just a voice interface. I'm just a voice interface. And he's like, come on, no, but I need you. And she just stares at him. And then just as it looks like he is about to expire, she says,
fish fingers
and custard. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what did you say? And I was like, this is a real weird moment, kids.
It is. It's weird.
I don't really feel this one. I don't, like, if we get an explanation later on why the TARDIS said this to him from the voice activation thing, like, after insisting, no, I'm just a interface, I wouldn't mind that. Because as of right now, it just feels very, like, Deus Ex Machina-y.
Yeah. And,
like, that just somehow drives him to, like, get back up. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not really buying this. So then we go to the restaurant that River busts into and demands that everybody take off their clothes because she plans to go shopping. Meanwhile, Rory and Amy are riding around on this motorbike like, oh, we have no idea where she could have gone. Everything is really inscrutable. We'll need some sort of clue. Who could tell? But then a bunch of terrified people run out of this restaurant in their underwear, and it becomes apparent very quickly what is going on. It's enjoyable, too, that the women are all in their underthings, but a lot of the guys are just, like, holding up their pants because they don't even have, like, suspenders anymore. You know, like, I enjoy the fact that she was kind of like, I don't know, maybe I want that blazer. Take that shit off, dude. And she says something like, I don't have a thing to wear, but I am sort of like, that outfit rules, though. Like, just keep that. What's wrong with it? But apparently she just wants to express herself. I don't know. She tries on this other thing that I think is inferior to what she had on. Although I do really like the stole. I'll say that.
Well, it looks like she's wearing a slip.
Mm-hmm.
But
I like the other thing better that she had on.
Yeah.
I mean, she had that, like, leather vest with the zippers and boots. Like, that was some good shit. So Amy and Rory get sucked inside of the Amy bot and are in there now as the Amy bot goes in to confront River. They almost get zapped by these jellyfish before somebody thankfully comes and saves them, which really you would think, were you going to zap up a couple of people? You should just have somebody on deck ready to keep them from being murdered. I feel like that seems like a precaution you'd want to take. But regardless, we have the confrontation between Amy Bot and River, where River is still thinking that Amy is Amy, even though she isn't quite. And Amy Bot is trying to get her to confess to killing the doctor. So I guess maybe this answers our question that what we were saying, like, you know, they take down River before she's done anything. This is the day she does it. So I guess all they had to do was wait 5 minutes. And then it has been done.
Yeah. I mean, technically, yes. This is not the date that they have in their records that he died. But she's taking advantage of being around the doctor and knowing that she's been programmed to do this thing.
Right. Well, she confesses, and Amy Bot pushes aside the mirror she's looking into and opens her mouth and hits her with a stream of light, and it's really weird. It's a weird moment. And then the doctor says, "Did you say the doctor?" And then the camera turns to the doctor in top hat and tails in front of a swastika hanging on the wall, as he turns and looks at the camera and says, "Doctor Who?" And I'm like, you guys need to calm yourselves. Calm right the fuck down, everybody. Good Lord.
They love to make a Doctor Who joke.
They love it. They love it. And honestly, it's a shame that there's just a giant swastika chilling on the back wall there. Because that moment of him turning to you and saying Doctor Who and that subtitle popping up, this would be a really good screen cap if not for that fucking swastika, which ruins it.
Yeah. Swastikas ruin everything.
That's absolutely 100% correct. So we have the moment of the doctor confronting Amy Bot. And they say, "Why would you care? She's the woman who kills you." The doctor takes his hat off and says, "Yeah, but I'm not dead." They say, "You're dying." "Well, at least I'm not a time-traveling robot operated by miniaturized people," which I have got to admit I didn't see coming. Same. And then he asks, "What do you want with her?" And they explain about how, because he asks, like, "She was trying to kill me. What does that even have to do with you? This isn't any of your business in the first place." And they explain about how time travel has responsibilities. And I'm like, well, one would think that the responsibilities would be to, like, you know, not let the thing happen.
Right.
But apparently not. He says, "You got yourselves time travel, so you decided to punish dead people," which is a weird way to say it, but essentially accurate. And this dude replies, "We don't kill them. We extract them near the end of their established timelines." And the doctor says, "Then what?" And he says, "Give them hell." And the doctor does not like that answer at all. I'd ask you who you think you are, but I think the answer is pretty obvious. And honestly, that was also my question. The thing is, I also ask the doctor that question all the time.
It's true.
So it doesn't entirely work to have him asking it when I'm just kind of like, yeah, but dude, you are one of the most, you know, like, genuinely, dude, you go hard deciding that you know what somebody deserves and what's right and wrong. So while I do totally understand your feelings on this, I just don't think you specifically have a leg to stand on in this situation. That's all I'm saying.
It's fair.
But nevertheless, he's still, by the way, like, low-key dying.
Yeah.
He can't stand at this point.
They love to give Matt Smith some chances to use physical comedy as much as possible. He's a Muppet.
Yeah. 100%. Did I tell you that I was talking to Rashawn about the show, and she asked me which doctor I was in yet? And I was like, Matt Smith, he's the 11th doctor. And she was like, yeah, neither of those things means anything to me. And I was like, the one who looks like a foot. And she went, oh. And then she started laughing, and she was like, how fucked up is it that I knew exactly who you meant, because he fucking does. And I was like, I know he does. That's why I said it. I knew you would know exactly who I meant. Anyway.
She joined the Whovian group. She doesn't watch the show? I assumed that she must, since she joined my Whovian group.
I don't know.
I guess she just did that to post memes every once in a while.
Maybe that's it. She loves her memes, that girl. A real memester. So it turns out that because Amy is related to River, she gets some privileges, which include getting to talk to her through the little microphone thingy.
Yeah.
And also access to personal records. And it's a weird moment of like like her having privileges regarding River makes sense to me. Her getting access to the doctor's records doesn't really feel like it falls under that same umbrella, but it's fine. He asks, what is the silence? Why is it called that? And there's this bizarre thing. The silence is not a species. It is a religious order or movement. Their core belief is that silence will fall when the question is asked. And he says, what question? The first question, the oldest question in the universe, hidden in plain sight. And he says, yeah, but what is the question? And she says, unknown. And he says, oh, well, fat load of use that is, you big ginge. Which honestly is fair. That seems like the appropriate reaction to that. You don't say that shit and then be like, oh, but we don't know what it is. Like, that is like that whole thing doesn't make any sense to me.
It's to keep the mystery going for the rest of the season.
I know what function Jamie.
I hate stuff like I mean, I love a mystery. I love that this series now has a lot of overarching stuff that doesn't just get brought up and answered by the end of the episodes. I like that. But this specific trope of here's a lot and nothing. It's frustrating to watch. It makes me think about that episode of Buffy, and spoilers for Buffy season 5, where Buffy finds out what glory is. And it's set up in that way that you think it's going to end without the answer. And then the guy from the Watchers Council says, she's a god. And then Buffy's like, oh. And, like, I loved that. Like, give an answer. Because there's still so much you can build on from there. Instead of being like, well, she's really, really strong, but we just don't know.
Right.
Or we have some suspicions, but we don't have all the pieces. Like, just say it. She's a god. And this is like, we want you to know some things. It's a religious order, not a species. And the oldest... what this makes me feel like is, this is a really nice turn of phrase. The oldest question in the universe.
Is it?
I don't know. The silence will fall when... What is it? The silence will fall when the question is asked. That has a nice rhythm to it. It sounds really good. It's
okay,
but
I'll give you that.
That feels like its only function. It's like at this point they didn't know what the question was, and they didn't really want to spend time figuring that out yet. They still had all these other episodes to write. That's how that feels to me. Here's a really nice turn of phrase. Sounds nice coming out of the mouth. Now let's move on.
Ma'am. There's no reason to say it like that.
I like language.
It sounds nice coming out of the mouth.
Shut up. Why do you have to turn everything into a dirty joke, you 12-year-old?
It's not even like a dirty joke. It's just, it makes me, like, even setting sex aside entirely, that is a gross way to say it.
Okay,
that's
fine.
on you, not me.
Fine, whatever.
It sounds nice coming out of the mouth. I mean, and you said the mouth, which makes it worse somehow because it's like impersonal instead of just your mouth, which I don't know.
Making it personal would have made it better. We can move on.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. My point is, I don't think they knew what they really wanted it to be yet, or they just wanted to we're going to give you a breadcrumb and another breadcrumb and another breadcrumb. Whereas if they'd answered what that question is, that in itself is like, okay, so who asks this?
Right.
And when and why? And then what happens? What does it mean when silence falls? Instead of this, like, silence will fall when the question is asked. We don't know the question. Let's move on.
Yeah, the fact that these people have like a record of everything, but then that is an unknown, also feels a little bit like convenient.
Yeah.
I guess the point is the question has to be unknown, because if it's asked, then that's the beginning of the things falling apart.
Sure.
I guess, but it just doesn't. The whole premise of silence will fall when the question is asked is certainly nebulous enough and weird enough that I feel like you didn't need to go down that road to begin with and paint yourself into a bit of a corner here, where now it can't be asked or else that starts the thing. I would love if the question was literally just Doctor Who.
That gets asked all the time.
That's the question.
A lot of people have asked that.
Yeah, because that can't be it. But I'm trying, because the question usually that I think of from like the beginning of time is just, what are we doing here? What is the meaning of our existence? Why is life?
Right.
Right.
Well,
but apparently that's not it.
That was answered in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
42.
Yep.
Everybody knows. We all know. 42. That's it. What a weird... Okay, so I don't know what to do with this, though, guys. I really don't. So the doctor then falls to the ground. Things are going very badly. He begins to plead with River. I know you're scared. Don't run. Never run when you're scared. Rule 7, please. BT Dubs Rule 1 is the doctor lies.
Mm-hmm.
Inside of the Amy bot, Amy and Rory. I was about to call him Toby. Have I almost done that before?
I don't think so.
He seems like a Toby. This is the best that they can do is to like fuck everybody's day up by releasing these things and turning off all of their like access so that the jellyfish creatures begin to think that they are a threat that needs to be equalized. Which honestly, I feel like, again, with the not thinking ahead a ton on this, I just don't see how you create a system in which if there's like a mechanical failure where everybody's wrist things turn off, they all just are killed. They're all summarily executed. That feels like maybe you should think about redesigning that. You know what I'm saying? It's just a weird that this is even in place. And granted, we need the Deus Ex Machina for them to like get out and yada, yada, yada. But it's just strange. And it's such like a huge hole for me that it's hard for me to really get past. That this is the way they've chosen to function. They have all the technology in the world. They can create robots that can take on someone else's appearance. And they have fucking documents and time like of the past and future events. But this is how they choose to have their security work? Really? But anyway, we finally get to a moment where the doctor appears to have actually died. And then River gives him her regenerations to bring him back to life. And we find out later that I thought that she, like, I was thinking maybe she would give him the one and that would be enough. But apparently she, like, had to give him all of the ones that she would have left.
Yep.
Which,
And she only does this after they have the robot turn into her. Because she's like, who is River Song?
Right. Which, he's called you River several times now. I really feel like you should have...
Right.
Come on. And having to have the robot turn into her instead of just being like, you. That's the name that you choose. Or whatever. But... it's fine. Whatever. We need the drama. I don't need the drama. I'll just go on record saying that I don't need it. They didn't have to do it this way. It felt a little clunky to me. But it's fine. And then when he comes back, we then see her like in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
And she is looking the worse for wear because of no longer having her regenerations available to her, I guess. And I have to say... she kisses the doctor and says, hello, sweetie, as she's giving him her regeneration. But, like, she kissed him before, and that's what poisoned him. Yeah. And I don't really understand why it didn't poison her. Because apparently all it took was contact on the lips.
I don't know.
Which apparently has no effect on her at all. And then we don't, like, see her, like, remove it or anything. But she goes to kiss him again. And I'm just kind of like, well, you're giving him all your regenerations and you're just murdering him one more time. So I don't really think this is going to be super effective. But apparently it is. I don't really get the way that poisoning was supposed to have worked.
It's kind of like her lipstick that we've seen her use in the past. She puts this lipstick on and kisses somebody and then they like... don't know who they are or where they are or whatever. She did it in her jail cell. She kissed the guard and then he was like, he drew a picture of her on the wall, remember? He thought he was still guarding her.
The hallucinogenic lipstick.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that doesn't make her hallucinate. So I imagine it, whatever it was on her lips was kind of like that. It doesn't entirely make sense because you would think like, yeah, it's contact on her as well.
Right.
Unless it's something that's like bioengineered to not affect her.
I spent years building up an immunity to iocane powder. Maybe that's all it is.
Maybe.
Did you get what I'm referencing?
Thought I did, but maybe I don't.
Have you not seen The Princess Bride?
Oh, yes, I have, but only once. I've only seen it once.
My brain just broke a little bit.
Sorry.
I thought if anybody would understand that joke immediately, it would certainly be you. And now I don't know what to do. All right, well. I guess I'll just continue
At least
on
I've
disappointed.
seen the movie. I've just only seen it once.
All right. I suppose. God, you really threw me off my game there.
Sorry.
So, the episode ends... well, the doctor first, he drops off the little blue notebook, the TARDIS notebook, that she will be keeping all of the information in about when they meet up and how their paths cross and whatnot. It's pretty good. I would love to know where he found that. Did he have the TARDIS manufacture it? Was it in the gift shop at this hospital? And they ask him when they're back on the TARDIS privately, who did she murder? She was in the hospital. She was in prison for murder in the future. And the doctor just gives them this look as he backs slowly away from them. And then big bright smile and kind of runs off. And I was just like, why you gotta be like that though? Just tell them the thing or be like, well, I'm not telling you. But he has to be all fucking dramatic about it.
Yeah.
As usual. Why am I surprised at the doctor being a fucking drama queen? That's literally the least surprising thing. I don't know why I'm acting like this is
Isn't that
brand new.
when there's a picture right up on the screen of him and when he dies? And he's like, nothing.
It is... hold on.
In the TARDIS?
She says, whose murder?
Or is this the nurse?
No. It's not. They're on the TARDIS.
Okay, so it's Amy that asks it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like on the screen right next to him is his picture with the date he dies at Lake Silencio. Yeah, and he's like, he doesn't answer, and he just sort of like closes his screen.
I see him on the background. I don't see any dates or anything. It's like not, I can't read that.
Yeah, it's like May 2011 or whatever.
Huh. I'm wondering if I'm looking at the wrong spot, because from the angle that I was at just now, you absolutely could not read that. Oh, wait, here. Okay, I went back further. She's at the greatest hospital in the universe. Yeah, but she's our daughter. She's River, and she's our daughter. And he says, I know, but we have to let her make her own way now. We have too much foreknowledge. And then we see the doctor death date. Yeah, you're right. Dangerous thing, foreknowledge. And she says, what's that? And he says, nothing. It's just some data I downloaded. Very boring. Right. So now he knows. So,
and then
what's it like to know that the woman that like you kind of wind up with is maybe going to kill you? That has to suck.
The episode ends with her in 5123, and she's applying to study at this university to get a degree in archaeology.
Right.
How does she get there?
I do not know. I do not know anything.
I don't either.
She says that she's just looking for a good man.
Yep.
Which I'm really like, that's not the thing to tell somebody that's interviewing you for an education, that you really just need to get laid or married.
I think that it goes both ways. It's, you know, she wants to study archaeology because she's looking for a good man in history, but we know that she's looking for the doctor by studying this history, probably. I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't sound like that when she says it, though.
It doesn't.
If I were interviewing her and she said that, it would really sound like I'm coming to college to find a man.
Right.
Which is like the really gross thing that people insinuate about women going to college anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So there were a couple little things that you didn't mention. She flies the TARDIS inside the Amy bot to get Amy and Rory, and they say, how did you know how to fly the TARDIS? And she said, she taught me. So the TARDIS taught her how to fly.
Because she's a child of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of neat. I rather like that.
And then there's two little interesting pieces of trivia. One is that in Mel's first scene in the episode, her face cannot be seen due to the sun's glare behind her. She moves her body to block the sun and her face is shown, much like the first scene of River in The Impossible Astronaut.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then Melody Pond says, hello, Benjamin, to the doctor, which when it happened, I was like, what the Benjamin?
Yeah. That was confusing.
The doctor previously claimed Scotland Yard's code name for her was Mrs. Robinson. Both reference the movie The Graduate, in which a younger man, Benjamin, is seduced by an older woman, Mrs. Robinson.
Oh.
Because he looks so young.
Gotcha.
Even though he's 900 years old.
It's so funny. When you say it, it really sounds like you're just being insulting about somebody who's like 45. But no, you literally mean that.
Yeah, he's 900.
All right. Well, I don't know how to feel about this episode as a whole. It was a real weird one.
Yeah.
I like in general the idea that she like planted herself in their lives, because that is sort of unnerving. I don't exactly understand how she had all the, like, I would think giving her the information that these are her parents as a child would not do well for her growing up. And I don't really like the whole conceit here is that she knows already and is like watching them with the full awareness, even from a kid, that that's who these two are. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure. I assume that this is all down to the people who are like brainwashing her, basically putting her in this position.
I don't think so. Because remember when the little girl was in the astronaut suit, she broke out of it. Right. And River says she must have been incredibly strong to break out of this. And then we see her in that alleyway and she regenerates because she's been injured or whatever.
Right.
She escaped from the people who stole her and then found her parents who were at the... Actually, I don't know how she got to them at the sort of same ages so that she could grow up with them. Mm-hmm. Unless River's time traveling ability does not have anything to do with needing a ship to take her places. I don't know if because she's a child of the TARDIS, if that gives her the ability to like skip herself through time, because that in the alleyway was in the 1960s. But Amy and Rory were kids probably in the 1990s.
Right.
And then she grew up with them, so she found them when she was the same age as them. I don't know if they planted her there or not. It seems like she's got all this brainwashing in her head. Yeah, they probably planted her there. I was trying to talk myself out of it, but no, they probably planted her there.
I feel like that's the only... Because, like, she'd also have to... I mean, she'd have to be registered at the school to attend. She'd have to have, like, guardians, parents of some kind, posing in order for her to, like... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A kid just can't turn up and go to school and everybody's like, well... So there has to be some sort of, like, mechanism to make this look real. I don't know. But yeah, I'm curious about the logistics behind all of that. I like the idea of it, but it's also weird. Like, what is the advantage there? Why did they send her to do this? What does that accomplish? I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it's fine. So yeah, that's the end of the episode.
We do have a new review.
Ooh, read me a new review.
It is Love It So Much, 5 stars by Winter's Witch from the United States.
Ooh, I love that name.
I knew you would. I haven't watched Doctor Who in a few years, and listening to this podcast was a great opportunity to go back and rewatch my old favorite episodes and catch up on the ones I've missed. Natasha and Jamie provide a great commentary on the episodes, highlighting the amazing moments as well as giving fair criticism for its not-so-amazing ones. The two balance each other nicely, with one being an old fan of the show and the other a skeptical newcomer. I highly recommend this podcast for anyone wanting to listen to some great discussion of Doctor Who.
Whee! Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, thank you all so much. I really appreciate all of you. And I believe I mentioned I don't remember actually, but we have reached our goal for covering A Song of Ice and Fire.
Last week we were at 98%.
Okay, so yeah, we have reached goal. I'm super excited about it.
Didn't we reach the goal that same day?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Because I checked it and I was like, I'm not sure if it's at 98. I feel like it dropped. And then I think I checked it and it was at 99 after all. But it was like right on the edge there. And I just want to thank, there's a lot of people who raised their pledges a little bit in order to like help nudge us towards the goal. And I just really appreciate all of you. And I'm going to greet new patrons next week. Patreon has really undergone a huge change over the past couple days. And they have completely reset some of the pages that I used to use in order to access who are new, like, patron signups. Mm-hmm. And I have got to be honest with you guys, it is really frustrating me. I don't know why they've made some of these changes, but I'm going to have to figure out a new way to greet new patrons, because this is not going to work anymore the way I had been doing it. But if you have become a patron recently, I notice you and I appreciate you and I will be greeting you, I promise. But I have to find out a better, more efficient way to get all of the names together. And I want to let everybody know that recently Patreon has realize that because some of the things that are offered by the creators on Patreon are physical items, they have to start charging sales tax on some things for certain patrons at certain tiers. As of right now, I think that the only potential thing that might result in sales tax are the postcards, because they're the only physical item that I offer. But it depends on the state. And some states even charge for like additional like digital content. It depends.
That's bullshit.
It's really frustrating. They just cannot. We have people getting away with robbing millions of dollars, and they're coming after my $25,000 a year, but it's fine. So just FYI, if y'all are like, you know, if you guys have it on a very specific budget, or if you're like really worried about that, keep an eye out, double check. Patreon has like information on what states require what. It should only be a few cents. I don't remember if it comes out on my end or your, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into it again, but I think it doesn't start until July 1st. So
I think it gets charged to us, to the patrons. Like a sales tax is added. It should be nominal. But
yeah,
if somebody's like, I pay $10, that's what I can afford, and suddenly it's $10.18, that 18 cents might affect you. I don't know.
Yeah. So just, you know, if you guys see that, trust that I did not change anything. If your charges suddenly are different, that is probably a result of sales tax. And it might not even be from me. There might be other people that you pledge to that they do give something that's a physical item or whatever. But I just want to give you all a heads up about that.
How do they comb through and figure out what are physical items and what aren't? Do they have a team that's going through every single Patreon?
I am not going to get into it, but it's a whole thing.
Okay.
But I'm not doing that right now.
So you do have an answer. I didn't know if like creators were given an answer to that type of question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
Wow.
So, yeah, just keep an eye out, and we'll be starting on... Rashawn and I are currently halfway through Westworld. We will be taking a break between Westworld and starting Song of Ice and Fire because someone has commissioned us to watch a movie, Gattaca, and then we will begin Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, this person chooses surprising... And this one, like, she and I have already seen it, and we told the person that. But they were like, nevertheless. I was like, okay, if that's what you want.
Gattaca.
And then we will be beginning Song of Ice and Fire. So yeah, that's what's happening. And I am really excited about that. I'm super, super interested in what will happen there.
I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you all again so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed the coverage, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.